Hello, welcome back to another edition of Strategic Rap Intelligence, and I am your host, one Sir Robert Lee Taylor. Did that sound, like radio enough for you? At any rate, hey, look, thanks for coming back. Thanks for checking it out. Maybe it's your first time. This is Strategic Rap Intelligence, where we talk about current events, past events, and intel. Open source intelligence information, also known as OSINT, OSINT, to those who know, and now to those who didn't know, but now you know. So really tonight's subject is hypocrites in Seattle. Seattle hypocrites. We're going to be talking about fake liberals, fake politicians, people who are not who they say they are. They are not what they say they are. They are pretenders, and not good ones. You know, there are those who work in certain undercover capacities like FBI and other agencies, to help people. The people we're going to be talking about tonight are monsters. Just un-American, just grotesque, obscenely, just bad so-called human beings. All right? Consequently, my best approach to this matter is to give you an anecdote, give you a description, provide you with some background information on my experience when I had conducted business in Seattle so many eons ago. I used to work with computer science persons, IT, technical specialists, people who work not just in Seattle, which is located in King County, for those who don't know, but I also worked with individuals from all around the Puget Sound region. I work with people in different counties, in different cities, people in Canada. I work with people stateside. I work with people in Everett, Seattle, Tacoma, Linwood, Bellevue, Bothell, Redmond, Woodinville. I work with people from Issaquah, Totem Lake, people from all over. But Seattle tends to be on people's minds. People in Washington State have this fixation with Seattle, Washington for some reason. And Seattle's really not that cool of a city, in my opinion. It's pretty backwoods and pretty backwards. Now, you're probably asking, like, Rob, how can it be backwoods? Well, really, if you think about it, it's just a 5-minute by 5-minute city that's carved out of the mountains. And the people there, a lot of them are not who they tell you that they are. They're just fake. They're just imposters, man. And, the way it really works is like this. You have people who graduate from high school, some of them, and they go on to these 2-year and 4-year college institutions. And you think to yourself, oh my goodness, this person has actually elevated himself or herself and has gone on to college and, later maybe even the university. At the end of which time, this person maybe comes back to his or her hometown, and you're talking to this person and you're thinking, wow, this person is educated now because this person attended a 2-year or 4-year college. And I heard that this person was studying hard. But in reality, that person didn't really learn much of anything. The person partied, popped some ecstasy, smoked some weed, drank way too many fucking, drinks. And if you really knew how to get into that person's mind, probe the person's mind, and ask the person a series of simple questions, you'd realize that anything that person supposedly learned just went in one ear and fucking came out the other ear. That's the case in a lot of states where you have people who are pseudo-intellectuals. I mean, look, Seattle is a wannabe LA. It's always wanted to be LA. People in Seattle have always wanted for people outside Seattle to think that Seattle is in some way like Los Angeles. There are 30 million people in the state of California. Los Angeles is what it is. It's fucking LA. And then down the road, you've got Hollywood. Seattle ain't shit, man. It doesn't have any of those fucking qualities or characteristics. People there, man, tend to be pompous. They're lofty. And you talk to them and you're like, oh, really? Well, let's talk about the humanities. Oh, okay. You kind of, perpetuate this image that you're cultured. Let's talk about various cultures. Man, people don't know where shit is on the map. You ask them, yeah, well, what about this country? What about that country? They're like, oh, isn't that in this other country? You're like, no, man, it's not. Absolutely fucking not. And you compare and contrast that person's level of intelligence to that of someone in another state, like, say, the Midwest. People in Chicago, Illinois, they're smart. People in the state of Illinois, they're smart. Look, man, Seattle has its pockets in which there are those who are relatively intelligent, highly intelligent. Within populations, you have people with high IQs. But I'm telling you, man, if you go to Seattle and you talk to the average person who's just kind of hanging out on the streets, going into these cafes and all these different places, ask them what's going on. You know, just say, hey, so, you know, what's going on in your neck of the woods? What's going on in the world? They're like, oh, man, you should go to this restaurant. It's the bomb. And you're like, huh, okay, yeah, sure. And then, you know, just ask them about the president. Oh, fucking I hate George Bush, man. Fucking Bush and blah, blah, blah. And the fucking Republicans and Fox News. That's all they talk about. That's all you're going to get out of anybody in Seattle, most likely. Now, again, there are exceptions to the rule. But, man, I wouldn't just be going on about this subject of Seattle if there weren't some element of truth to it. I speak the truth. I've been to Seattle. I've spent many years working in and out of the city. I know people throughout the region, and even a lot of the people who live there, who I know, they're like, man, I wish I didn't live here. Fuck this place. And I'm like, well, why don't you move? They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, hey, if you live there, man, in your little comfort zone, then nothing's going to change. And they know. They're like, yeah, I know. And look, man, there are places in the world where you got crummy cities. There's a system of ratings, and oftentimes you'll hear such and such city was ranked #1 for this particular year. Like so many years ago, it was Vancouver, British Columbia. The consensus was that Vancouver, British Columbia was the #1 place in the world in which to live. It was like the cleanest city. It had the best air quality, the highest quality of living, best jobs, best looking people. I mean, just all these different things, whatever it was. I mean, don't quote me on that. But the point is, it was ranked in some major poll to be the #1 place in the world during that time in which to live. Seattle's not. Fuck Seattle. Okay? And that's the other thing, man. If you have any kind of dissent in Seattle, like if you don't agree with the view of the, individuals there, they're like, oh, man, why are you talking shit about Seattle? And I'm like, because, man, this place ain't about shit. It's not about shit, dude. What the fuck is Seattle? It's 5 minutes by 5 minutes. And people try to make it to be something that it's not. Seattle is like, in the movies, you see Sleepless in Seattle, you're like, oh, man, fucking, yeah, that's cool, dude. Seattle's like the emerging town. No, it's not. Okay, and here's another thing. Microsoft isn't in fucking Seattle. If you live out of the region, you think Bill Gates, Seattle. No, Bill Gates, Redmond, Washington, across the fucking floating bridge, okay, where the upscale communities are. Now, those are nice places, okay? Bellevue, Redmond, Woodinville, Bothell, the 405 highway system. Yeah, that's a nice green belt out there. You got some smart people who know better than to fucking, mingle in a town where you got a bunch of fucking wannabe gangsters and whatnot. Seattle, I mean, hey, there's some legitimate businesses there. The Seattle Science Center is nice. But other than that, I mean, what the fuck is Broadway in Seattle? It's one little tiny jut of land, and it's like, that's Broadway. There's a pizza place, some fucking dude playing the guitar on the corner with his hat so you can throw some coins, and then there's Capitol Hill. You can walk up and down the hill, takes about 5 minutes, and that's it. There's your Seattle. So you don't know Seattle, man, like I know Seattle. All right? If you're from Seattle, you might know Seattle like I do, but chances are 99% of the people outside the region, they don't know. And I'm telling you the truth. All right? Seattle has potential, but that's like 20 years from now, man, when people in Seattle stop lying to the world. And this is what I mean. I went to school with these people who told me that they were Republican conservative. For all these years, they were like, I'm going to be different than people in Washington State. I'm going to be Republican. And I'm like, are you really Republican? They're like, dude, I'm totally conservative. And I hang out with, like, people that are wealthy. And, I've even kind of, like, caught myself being a little snobbish. And I'm like, oh, so is that what a Republican is? And they're like, well, I mean, liberals are this and Republicans are that. And I'm like, oh, the stereotypes, right? And they're like, yeah, those same fucking people years down the road, now they claim to be liberal. They're not. They're just liars, man. People in Seattle, they have these notions of what it means to be liberal and conservative that are unlike anyone else, any other, notions from real liberals and real conservatives in the United States of America. The so-called liberals back in Seattle, they're neo-communists. That's exactly what they are, and that's why there is a communist recruitment center in the city of Seattle. You can look it up. It's in the telephone pages. Well, it's in Washington State somewhere. You've got the Communist Party of the United States of America with the headquarters there. And the people in fucking Seattle that talk about they're liberals, one day they're liberals, the next day they're Republicans, the other day they were Republicans, and now they're liberals, and now they're independents, and they go back and forth. So you can't trust them, man. You don't know if what they're fucking saying is true or not, and it's like they're not what they say they are. All right, so I don't even fucking listen to their bullshit at all. And then they're like, oh, the jobs here suck. Well, hey, man. You like being liberal and you're living in the city that you fucking love to live in. Seattle has potential, but like I said, it's like 20 years down the road.